welcome to FreeThinkers Fireside, where we put the human and humanist one cozy chat at a time. My name is Helen, also known as Hell's Bells, and tonight we have Cindy Plaza. But why we are waiting for her to finish up getting ready, I'm going to play a video about a fundraiser that will be happening March 31st. That's a Monday, in regards to the organization that Secular Rarity has started. So I'm going to do that. Hold on. Oh, wait. What happened? What happened? There's no volume. Hold on. I muted. Sorry, guys. I'll try that again. There we go. Unmute.
Join us on March 31st at 5:30 p.m. Central Time as we launch Secular Rising US, a brand new nonprofit organization dedicated to connecting and supporting atheists, humanists, and secular people. We'll bring on a bunch of awesome guests and talk about all the cool things we already have planned for this year. So hang out with us as we build a home for secular people. Secular Rising US, where secular people find their people.
All right, so that's for that's going to be the 31st. I will put a link into the doobly-doo, so you guys get that. Also, as well, for those of you who are know our wonderful also other nonprofit, Kelley Laughlin, he is going through some things right now. So I'm going to include in the description a GoFundMe I have for Kelley, to kind of help him out financially, because he's going through it right now. And even if you can't donate, if you can just even share the GoFundMe, or if you got like $3 that you can donate, that is fine. Whatever you can do, that'd be great. Because especially in this space, we all have to kind of take care of each other. So that's going on. So if you guys could do the things, I don't know, share, subscribe, and also for Kelley's fundraiser, just share the link as well. That would be really, really great. So I'm going to put that in the chat. So I'm going to put that in the doobly-doo and the chat. So I'm doing that right now. I'm doing it right now, guys. So that's a thing too, guys. So oh, you know what? I put the wrong video in. We'll do that later. I'll put it together later. I got distracted. I'll do it later. I'll make it a thing. So we're waiting for Cindy. She is finishing up getting ready. We got the time a little bit confused, but we can wait. We're patient. Cindy's here now. Yay, Cindy.
Hey.
Hi, Cindy.
Oh. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
It's okay. I thought that we had confirmed the time, and I should have confirmed it better. So I apologize.
No. That was good. It's just we're in this time of year where the US has moved to summertime and we didn't. So it's always
daily
very
savings,
confusing.
Yeah. Sorry. That makes sense, because we just moved to daylight savings times last week. So
yeah,
that makes sense. So I apologize for that. I did not take that into account because I just live here.
Yeah,
I just assume everybody does American time.
Yeah, I think it's just 2 weeks of difference.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's fine.
That's great. Well, you're here now. So tell the people who you are.
So my name is Cindy Plaza. I'm French. I've been living in Belgium for 9 years now. I'm a cradle atheist and living in one very happy country that's not turning fascist, and so I'm really happy about that.
stop bragging. Okay, you need to stop bragging.
No, I'm going to brag a lot. I think
Okay,
during
fine.
this show.
You are not
Um,
fascist because Europe learned that lesson. Some of it, anyway.
it's very
Oh, hold on. I don't know that. Oh, go ahead. It was a little bit of a
it's really hard looking out from the outside and looking at what's going on in the US, what's been going on
yeah.
in the last 10 years. And it's getting scarier at an exponential rate, I would say. So yeah.
Yeah, it's super fun. Let me tell you,
Hmm.
it's so much fun. So, you wanted to talk about rational thinking. So, can you explain why you wanted to talk about this particular topic?
Yes, because I want to bring to the world. I would say it's very pretentious of me to say that, but um, a lot of people in the atheist community talk about critical thinking generally when we have discussion about epistemology, and I think that critical thinking is not sufficient. So I tried to zoom out and see and try to define a framework in which we could include critical thinking, of course, but look at things more broadly. Because if you take into account everything we've learned about psychology in the last 30 years, um, critical thinking is not enough if you want to um, to know the truth more often than not in your life. So I tried to zoom out and see what needs to be included into this. Uh,
Hmm.
if you want to learn the truth as much as possible, what other tools do we need other than critical thinking? And so that's why I talk about rational thinking, which I define as um, the will and the ability to think and act according to reason
Hmm.
uh, in order to figure out the truth more often than not. So the idea is to um, um, think. So the thought has left my mind. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Uh,
That
so
happens to me all the time.
yeah, the will and the ability, that's two very different things. um,
Hmm.
in order to look for the truth, you have to want it. If you live in a bubble and the source of information you have is sufficient to you, then you will not going to be looking for the truth. Like if you're in a
Right.
cult, if you're in a strong religion or a political very strong political group,
Hmm.
um, you will not have the incentive to look for the truth. So um, if you want to go through this, you need to want it. So the will and the ability, that's things you're going to learn and be able to do in order to get there. Then there's the idea of thinking and acting, because we do both, and both have the ability to be um, uh, moved away from the truth because of our cognitive biases, because of peer pressure, because of thousands of things.
Let's pick a reason.
Yeah, and in order to get to the truth more often than not, because we know that no one will be a rational thinker. It's something you strive for. It's a goal that you will
Hmm.
never reach. It's the path, not the destination. That's something I would say. So um, I I tend to identify three areas of work if you want to go this way. Um, the first one is emotions. If
Mhm.
you so knowing what are emotions and how they work is extremely important because um, when you look at movies, you always see that dichotomy between um, a rational action and an emotional action, for example, and
Mhm.
they're very very often presented as opposites, uh, and they're not. There is no action, there is no thought that is not influenced by emotions. And you know it because you worked on well, you studied psychology, so you know that
Right.
everything we do, everything we think is influenced by our emotions, sometimes
Right.
in a very small capacity, sometimes very very strongly. um, and so the purpose of this is not to say we need to be robots and think like robots and only logical. That doesn't exist. We are not
No.
able to do this. We are not physically capable of doing this. So the purpose of studying emotions is that we need to learn how we work, and we need to learn how uh, our emotions can cloud our judgment. Like if you know that having a certain topic on discussion triggers your anger, then you know that you
Mhm.
have an emotional connection to this topic, and you need to understand why. And understanding this will help you
Mhm.
um, make more positive reactions when it comes to changing your opinion. Because you talked about this with Scott on Monday, um, that if you are very attached to a topic, like if you uh, align it with your identity, then it's extremely hard for you to change your opinion about it. And
Right.
so learning rational thinking or working on your rational thinking, it um, disconnect your emotion from topics so that you can evaluate them more carefully. And that's one very important thing. The other is that our emotions can be manipulated. Like some there are a few, like I would say three emotions that are very very often used to manipulate people. It's anger, it's fear, and it's disgust. um,
Mhm.
and these are used very 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 often by politicians, by uh, theologians, by any kind of people, and even by sometimes family members, um,
Yep.
to manipulate you. So understanding how this works also helps diminishing the effect it has on you. um, so we could go on about emotions because it also um, goes on to work on your emotional balance um, and therefore your mental health, um, which we know that when your mental health is in a good place, then you tend to do uh, and to be able to think better and make better decisions
Mhm.
than when it's not. But yeah, emotion is a big topic and needs to be um, at least understood better for people. And we see
Mhm.
right now in the US a trend, like empathy and emotions and positive emotions are somewhat um, bad things,
Mhm.
and we need to fight this. The second topic, so there's emotions. Second topic is education. So that's obvious for everyone. Any argument you're going to make will be based on premises, and the level of truth of your statements in
Mhm.
your arguments will make it stronger. So education is very important, but there are some topics that I would think would be better taught early, at like 6, 7 years old. It's
Hmm.
how the basics of psychology, basically, because
Hmm.
how we behave with other people, all that is based on simple rules that we can explain to children, like peer
Right.
pressure, like all these things that influence us. I think the basics of psychology would be should be taught at this very young age, not in a comprehensive course like math or biology or this kind of things, but slowly with exercises and group exercises with the classmates, and see how the other responds, and see how we as a society how those reactions channel our actions.
Hmm.
So yeah, obviously there's a lot of things that needs to be taught, basically, and we need to I would say instill these ideas of rational thinking inside the courses, like starting 4 or 5 years old and then growing up to high school. Um, and then, so emotions, education, and then the third one is obviously critical thinking, which is the tools and mental postures that we use to think more rationally. And so I like to explain the postures with one example. Do you like movies often?
Yes. Yes. I watch a
So
lot of movies.
do you like martial art movies?
Okay. No. Well,
No. Okay.
we own one. We own. Well, unless like if unless you're talking like sci-fi stuff like The Matrix, which is kind of martial arts. The only
Yeah.
real like martial art movie we have is Kung Fu Hustle. So, which is a great movie, by the way. It's very funny. Highly recommend. So,
Yeah. So in martial art movies, you often see someone. Um, who are you saying hi to?
Miss Don Sequiters in the chat. So I like to say hi to the chat. I like
Yes.
wave when
Let
people are
me
talking to be
answer as well.
polite.
So you have this a bit of stereotype you see often in movies. You have
Hmm.
the hero, most likely, or sometimes it will be the villain, but they have this defensive posture and they don't move. You see them staying like that, and it's a
Hmm.
completely defensive posture. And this posture is has been worked for decades by the person usually, and the purpose of this is whatever attacks comes forward,
Hmm.
the defensive posture has been worked to counter automatically with a specific move. So if a punch comes from the side, then the man who's defending himself will make a specific move. If it's an uppercut, then the another defensive move will come, and if it's a high
Hmm.
kick, for example, another defensive move. And so all these, so you have this defensive posture, and every time you are attacked, you counter with a specific defensive move that you have learned over and over. And so um, mental postures are basically the same. Your mind is in a certain posture,
Hmm.
and when you are confronted um, with something, then your mind will trigger something else. So like skepticism is a mental posture, because all it does is every time you are faced with an information, your brain analyzes the information and asks, is it true? That's skepticism.
Hmm.
Just, is it true when you are confronted with a new information? And then to figure out if it's true, then you're going to if the information is an argument, for example, then you will use logic to to verify if it's true or not. If the information is, I don't know, a scientific article, then you're going to use the tools science give us to look at a study, like is the sample big enough, is the methodology good enough, and all those things. And so you have a couple of mental postures, and you have all the tools. Mental posture are so skepticism, intellectual honesty, the ability to be comfortable with uncertainty and ignorance. And the tools are, well, science, logic, epistemology, and all those studies you can actually do. So yeah, that's how I see the entire framework to work.
Okay. That was a lot.
Yes.
I followed you, but it was a lot. So so since you live not in hell, because that's where I live right now, because I'm in Florida and it's a hellish landscape. But have you seen, compared to like the American education system versus like the Belgian, are Belgian kids, hi Kyle, are Belgian kids like learning how to think critically? Is it like, because I'm curious how that is set up, in like a European school, like Belgian school, versus like our school system, which is fucked.
So there isn't any specific leaning towards critical thinking in Belgium studying. However, since the public sector is much better equipped than the public education in the US, the general level of understanding from Belgian people is a bit higher than the US one. If you look at all the markers of measuring education, like being able to read, to count, and all this, the US is around 36, 40th in the world, and Belgium is usually around 10, 12, maybe. So yeah, France in I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I saw there was a political will to implement critical thinking. So what they did was to gather scientists on one side and teachers on the other side, and they had meetings and tried to figure out what are the ways critical thinking can be taught in at a young age. And I don't know what this led to so far. I know that France politically right now it's a bit of a mess, but it's the only effort that I'm aware of right now. But yeah, I think this is interesting, because if this goes somewhere, then we'll have actually critical thinking as a purpose in education, and that's a very important decision from a political point of view. So I like this idea.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Because just hearing the compare and contrast between, like, religion being, gradually, it's a slow burn, being reintroduced into public education. Not a fan of that, really. Not a fan.
I wonder why.
Don't like it. I know. I don't know why. Shocking. to believe in 21st century, believe in the sky gods. It's kind of fucked up. Anywho, so, but that being said, so since I live in the United States and it's a hellscape, and the schools are moving away from teaching kids how to critically think. And this isn't like when I was growing up, I could kind of make, the convention between science and religion. Like I could make it work in my brain. Does it take some mental gymnastics? Yes, it does. But I did it. So point one for me. But that being said, how do especially like parents that want to raise their kids to be free thinkers and use rational thinking, just from a outsider's perspective, how do you think they could be more effective in counteracting the bullshit that is being played upon part of our public education system?
Yeah, I think what teachers can do, and that can start as young as 3, maybe 4 years old, is to counter. There, I forgot the word now. Tribalism, and that's very, very easy to do at this young age. It's showing that. Maybe instinctively we have some reservations about people who don't like us, don't look like us, but actually there's no difference between them and us. And I think having those kind of things explained at a very young age, that could go a very, very, very long way into not getting rid, but lowering this extreme division in the US, because I don't see how you can go over this when hurting the other people is the point of your policy and your point of your vote and everything that goes around that. I don't see how you can survive as a country, to be honest.
I don't know. Like I mean, like I never thought I would see the slow demise of democracy, but here we are. So I'm hoping that will turn the ship around. But for some reason we have a very hard time learning this lesson. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So.
Yeah, and it goes beyond democracy. It's just about building a society. If you want to purposefully hurt the people living around you just because they think different than you, then how can you build a society? How can you build a country, build cities, build communities? It's not possible if you if the political divide is so much that every single topic becomes polarizing. Because every time you talk about a new thing, then it's this idea is on our side or on their side, and there's no way to talk about it between us. And today it's trans people, tomorrow it's immigrants, and the week
right
after
it's
going to be
it's trans people and immigrants.
Yeah,
and if you're a trans immigrant, their mind is just blown. Like, from a different country and a different gender.
Yeah.
It's just silly. It's silly. It is silly, but it's always because it's not the people that are actually in power, on the people that are actually, screwing everybody over. It's be afraid of the trans person, be afraid of the woman, the immigrant, be afraid of the woman, blah 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 blah, and I'm just like feminism. Like, okay, I'm like, slow your roll, motherfucker. like, slow down. It's the people in charge. So but, and I think that's kind of lost on people, how important, like, to understand the distinction. And that's part of rational thinking. Like, is it rational for me to think that trans people are 1% of the population is causing the demise of America? That's stupid. That's idiotic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's I think it's 0.4% of the population globally. So yeah.
But that's how it happens. It's 0.04% of the worldwide population is causing the decay of society. Blah 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 blah.
And all that without being in power,
Right,
right? Because
exactly.
we,
Yes,
we, we
yeah.
cannot go into power because otherwise, uh, society crumbles. So, but it's crumbling without us being in power. So how do you explain that?
It's osmosis.
Mm,
That's how that happens. I don't know, because it's stupid. It maybe because
mm,
people are complicated and we don't always make best decisions. Because guess what? We usually make our decisions based on emotion, not on logic. Um, and we talked about this last week with, we talked about this with Scott. Thinking fast, thinking slow.
mm.
And the reason why we're kind of harping on this, people, is because it's a problem. It's a problem with
Yeah.
people not engaging that part of their brain. And some people have never been taught to engage
Mm.
that part of their brain that can rationally think. They think they're being rational, but they're not.
Yeah, they think that thinking about something makes it rational, because they don't know what it means to be rational. They don't know the laws of logic. They don't know what reason entails. So they cannot possibly be rational.
Right, right. And that's an issue, because for us to progress as a society, it can't, like, obviously, like, our emotions are important, and I'm not trying, like, as you said, like, we're not automatons, we're not robots, and it's literally impossible for us to be that way. Because we are engaging with some kind of emotional center in our brains. Even people that have damage, that part of their brain that isn't, they're, psychopaths, um they still have to play the game of mirroring emotions and pretending that they have them to exist in society, because we are
Mm,
emotional creatures. So even still, they can still feel extremes of emotion. They can feel anger and lust and all these different things. It's just altered in a way that empathy center isn't there. So again, thing it is about it is that, because we are emotional creatures, and because the rational part of our brain takes a little bit more work to engage in, it's our you have to be willing to um, engage that part of it, and on top of it is to get in such a habit that your brain automatically tries to um, you know move to a place where it's skeptical. So I'm so
mm,
skeptical the brain falls out and you're skeptical about everything, but like you're reasonable. You're like, okay, like, you know I don't think turtles can fly planes. you know um that type of craziness, or
mm,
whatever, or vaccines don't work, or whatever. But go, okay, like, this is a new like, there is a new vaccine. What's the actual, like, science information? So, like, you can be skeptical about it with, but also, like, with education with
mm.
yourself, that you can balance the two. Like, I'm saying, like, you should be skeptical about everything. Like, do your research, actually, but, like, do real research, just like by people that actually, like, did studies and stuff. Not, Kevin on YouTube. Don't talk to Kevin. Kevin doesn't know shit. Like, Kevin doesn't know.
Yeah, yeah, and
Fuck that guy.
it comes back to what I was saying, that
Yep.
mental postures, that skepticism is one mental posture. It needs to be worked on. It doesn't come naturally. You have to work for it, and you have uh, to make it so that it's automatic. As every time you get a new information, this skepticism needs to trigger itself.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. Like, it should trigger that part of your brain to be like, hmm, and because, like, I think that those of us have that kind of went through believing in bull crap and then learned the skill to become like a rational thinker and become a skeptic. And no, it's not a clear cut system. Like I'm emotionally engaged all the fucking time, and I have ADHD. It's like it's a practice, you know.
Yeah.
Because but you recognize as a practice, this isn't something we naturally do, you know, like it is something that it is a skill.
Yeah.
But the sooner you teach it, it's not something you have to learn when you're like in your 30s.
Yeah, and it's again, you need to have an emotional reason to go through this. Sometimes it can be like you've been embarrassed because you thought something for your entire life, and then you discovered it was wrong, and that happened publicly. Sometimes it can be like your parents were very strict with you about not lying. Sometimes it can be, can be different things, but you need to have this emotional will to know the truth, and that's probably the most important thing that school needs to teach to children.
Mm-hmm. No, and I agree, because like also too, like how do you know what you're learning is true? That's another thing
Mhm.
that I think, and that's a responsibility of like teachers to say like, yeah, we've done all the work and this is why this is true, you know, like, you know, if you're
Mhm.
explaining like, you know, evolutionary biology, you know, like there's some like it's like there's actual evidence for such things. So that would be nice. So that's
Yeah,
just something to think about, guys. Like,
what frustrates me the most when we talk to people who deny like any science is that they 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 don't even understand how acquiring knowledge works, because when you're talking with religious people, they think in a very authoritative way, because their knowledge comes from one source, and that source is always right. And so they think that scientists and atheists, more broadly, we think the same, except uh, knowledge is
mhm,
not one single person can send a rocket to the moon. It takes thousands, hundreds of people accumulating their knowledge. Anything that's big is has been achieved by cumulative knowledge, and that's what they don't understand. That's why they always attack individual people like Darwin, like Dawkins. Like, no, it's
mhm,
always this thing that we believe this person because this person has the truth about something, but that's not how it works.
mhm,
That's entirely wrong, because we understand that knowledge is built like a wall. You have bricks coming up slowly, and then
mhm,
building something over time, thanks to the first bricks. And sometimes you realize that a few bricks are very bad, and they're threatening to uh, make a part of the wall fall, and so you replace them with something more solid. And that's how science works. It's just a pile of bricks. It's not individual walls.
right. Right. And I think that it because everything it kind of builds on itself, as you were saying. And I think
Yeah.
that's an important thing to understand about it. It's not just like this one little substrate. It's a building
Mhm.
of and then following the logic where it goes, you
Yeah.
know, which is, you know, and once you have that skill, your brain automatically defaults to it.
Yeah.
You know, like I said all the time, because when you're highly emotional, it's just going to go into emotional brain, and you're not going to be sitting there like I have to engage my logic centers. You know, like no, I'm just like if you're angry, you're just going to be angry. You know,
Yeah.
it is. That's fine. It's totally okay. Like, and I think that also like we talk a lot about, you know, rational thinking. Um, but a lot of motivators that can bring you to rational thinking can come from emotion. Like if you're, for example, you're angry about all the fascist shit that's happening in the United States right now. That can lead you, like, let's say, like, the issues with immigration, ICE happening right now. You could have the anger and then follow the logical steps to the research about, like, what the problem is, what is actually happening, instead of just just being mad, and then channeling that anger into action. I'm just using that
Yeah.
as an example.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And um, anger can be. We often hear about the angry atheists, and the thing is, anger can be a justification and a motive to find the truth, because when you realize that you've been lied to, that triggers anger, and that anger uh, um, fuels your will to find the truth. So
Right.
that's important too.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we have to kind of recognize, that like, one, they can both feed each other. You're
Yep.
like, you're not going to be able to turn off your emotions, everybody. Just let that pipe dream go. Like, you're an emotional being. It's supposed to be this way. That's why we've been able to survive for so long. So there you go. But also engaging that part of the brain also means that you recognize that you have emotions, and then you have thoughts and actions to balance that. But if you just like fly off the fucking handle every single time and just follow your emotions where they go, that's a problem, because that can lead to like some destructive behaviors that may not be good for you and other people. So
Yeah. Hmm?
yep. Just saying.
Yeah.
So did you
Yeah. Go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna ask you, like, did you grow up religious? No, you say you're a cradle atheist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I went to a primary school. It was a Catholic school, and so I had some.
I am so sorry. Because someone that went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Um, and when I had the first classes, the first religion classes, I just didn't get it. I didn't see the difference between because when I was a child, I think I was 7 when I started being very interested in Greek mythology, and so by 8 or 9, that's when I was exposed to really these religion classes. I already had a good overview of what superstition and
Mhm.
mythology is, and so when I was presented to this, I just didn't see the difference. I remember the teacher I had this year. She so in the morning she told us about dinosaurs, and in the afternoon there was a religious class, and it was the Genesis story, and I raised my hand and I said, but this morning you told us that we evolved and there was dinosaurs and
Yeah.
now Adam and Eve and what what
Okay,
and she
you're trying to make it make sense.
yeah
Stop it. Stop trying to make it
and
make sense.
and she said, do you believe in God? And I said yes, and then that's it. That was her answer. Then that's it. And that's when
That's not
I
an answer.
yeah, no,
Mm.
it's not. And so that's when the very little belief I had at the time, it just vanished very quickly.
Well, like, even when I went to Catholic school, like, because we had the same thing. We had science class, and you heard me say this to Scott, like, like, we were taught that God just pushed evolution and everything forward. He was the prime director or whatever. Like, fine, like, that's fine. Like, because it wasn't, because, like, it was definitely kitty cat. Oh, it's a baby. It's a kitty. Mine
That's
is
Simba.
underneath the bed. One of my cats is under the bed, and one's laying on my bed behind me, sleeping. So, um, anyways, distracted by cats. So that wasn't so hard for me to like kind of when I was younger and I didn't really have all the information about the sciences. Um, it was a lot easier for me to think like, okay, God like pushed everything to an existence and it was like let nature sort it out. I was like, okay, that's fine. But then once I got older and moral philosophy became part of my life as a teenager and I had questions. It took a little longer. Somebody didn't become an atheist until she was in her, late 30s, early 40s. But we're going to talk about that because somebody had to deconstruct a lot of bullshit, and that wasn't solely involved with, the Catholic Church. Is all that pagan shit because it's all the same shit. It's all the same thing. Just believing in weird things. So, so it's always funny to me because like my kids, like I didn't raise them to be religious. They've always been atheists or skeptics or what, because I was basically like, if you want to belong to a religion, I told them like you just have to do, I suggest that you learn about as much of it as you can if you're gonna base your moral center on a set of beliefs. So I was like, you should do the research. I'm not going to tell you no because you're a free agent, but then they don't understand like having a religious mindset. I'm like, you can't unless you lived it. You just can't.
Yeah, and I was lucky that I lived in a country where religion is extremely private, and so when I responded this, and then I didn't have any problem saying I don't believe that. I just had to just shut up during the religion courses. But even at home, nobody cared. My mother, she was, I would say, she is maybe religious. My father never was, and we never talked about this at home. So I didn't have any incentive or the opposite to believe or not believe. So was just fine.
Right.
And until I started talking with Americans and people in other countries, that's when I realized how religion was hurting actual people today. Unlike the Crusades or everything we talk about when we talk about religion, the harm happens today, including by Christianity.
Yeah, and I think that needs to be, understand a little bit better more because I don't think that people understand like the whole way that these things dance together. I don't think they get that. And I think that needs to be understood because guess what? We're really shitty about teaching history. Just gonna say that too. And especially religious history, which is a problem because there should be an idea of why religions have formed and why people hold certain beliefs. Like you don't like if you want to believe in God, fine, but at least understand where your religion fucking came from, and this is just a way you're interpreting a god or whatever. But again, if they did that, then the con would be up. So if you find that was just created by some dude, because it's usually a dude. It's always a dude.
Yeah, and also there's the idea that if today you ask in the 27 European countries which religion today is the most harmful, like 90% will say Islam, right? But that's only because the death caused by extremist Islam is very it's made to shock people. So
that's what terrorism. That's what terrorism is.
Yes, it's made to produce a shock value in people, and that's how they recruit and promote their brand of religion. But reality is, I wouldn't bet any money that or any other thing that Christianity is not as murderous as Islam, because Christianity generates a lot of silent death, as we could call them. Like, how
Mhm.
many committed suicide because they are not religious and their parents are in the US? How many commit suicide because they're LGBT and their parents didn't accept them? How many people? And you can keep asking those questions,
Mhm.
uh, and the answer is actually quite a lot. And so that's something that pains me, is that people measure the harm of a religion based on the number
Mhm.
of uh, beheaded people, and
Mhm.
that's not right. That's not right.
No.
The harm created by religion is immense.
I think that it's because people we're getting better. I'm not saying, but it's still like mental health is a uphill climb, because it is very nuanced. Like it's very easy to see somebody's head get chopped off, and see extreme acts of violence and go, "That's evil." Like that is a very easy thing to do. We're like, "That's fucked up," and and Christianity has done all types of fucked up things through history, and they keep doing fucked up things. So you don't get a pass. Sorry, they don't get a pass. Colonialism was one of them. so there we go.
Definitely, yeah.
And that was all done in the name of religion, because God really likes white people. So
Yeah,
he really does.
every woman that died because of pregnancy related issues since Roe v. Wade was turned, those deaths are on Christianity.
Yep. And this, but the thing is though, the so we're talking about, like, that's another example of a um physical harm caused by religion, based on belief. But we're not talking about psychological harm. We're not talking about like purity culture and shame. We're not talking about misogyny and queer phobia and racism and all the things, all the terrible things. And these are psychological states. These aren't something you can physically see, but you see the effect on people and their brains and their emotional centers and how they perceive themselves and others and so on and so forth. That's real.
Yeah.
But it's not as shocking or as attention grabbing as like somebody getting their head chopped off.
Yeah. Yes,
And that's
exactly.
and also too, because it's a foreign religion. It's from over there in where the brown people live, and
Yeah.
so that's the bad part of religion, even though it's the same fucking God, and
Mhm.
it's all the same history. It just, this was a particular sect that kind of veered off. It did its own thing, but sure, this is what you want to do, man. And it's one of those things that I'm just like, you're all being fucking silly, and your silliness is causing to real harm to real human beings. And I'm sorry, I don't really have time for you right now. And I don't really care what you think, that you're God's grace and Muhammad is the prophet. Nice, yeah, cool. He also essays like, as young girls. So what he said is pretty fucking invalid to me. I'm sorry. As soon as you do that, I don't really care if a God exists or not.
Did you have another question?
No, go ahead. I was gonna let you continue. I was just on a soapbox about how, like, I just find this whole justification of like religion being the moral center and how to be a good person, it just bothers me. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on from that, because we're talking about rational thinking. So
No,
go
but
ahead, Sydney.
no. I think it's an important
Yeah.
topic to bring, because
Yeah.
uh, um, it comes down to epistemology. So it is a rational thinking topic to understand where you find your information that you base your identity on, and that's crazy important. And this idea that morality don't, can only come from a god. Look at the most peaceful countries, look at the most happy countries. They're all mostly atheist countries. So that just doesn't make any sense.
I keep trying to, because once you let go of any sort of ideology, when you like that, my idea, whatever my God is the true perspective, and you're defending this with like some very extreme circumstances. Once that lets go and be like, wait a minute, I'm like, what, we don't know, and like, and then you realize that everybody's on the same journey, trying to figure out why we're here, and what to do with our lives, why we have exist on this fucking planet, and what does that look like for each individual. And again, as long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't really care. That we're all in that boat. Religious people, non-religious people, everybody is in the same boat. We're on this planet. Why do we exist? To me, I'm like, I don't know, chance. We're, the religious person is because, we exist for God. Okay, cool. That's nice. Also, I don't know your God exists, so I'm gonna just say it's chance. That's the way it's just a roll of the dice.
Yeah, and it's even worse than that, because if you're talking with this person and you tell them, okay, we're trying to build a society, and so we're going to define the rules of this society. So how should we define the rules? And if the person goes and say, well, we should look at the Bible. Okay, let's admit, let's say for a second that the Bible is the only religious text that claims to have the authority on morality. Let's take this any passage and ask 10 Christians about it, what they think about it, and see what kind of answer we have, and we'll have 10 different answers. So that's not viable anyway.
No, and that's why this is a problem. And that's why we're the activists that we are, because we're going like, wait, wait. Because again, I don't really care what you believe. I don't. As long as you're not, again, if you're not hurting anybody, I don't care. You can worship Bob the Wonder Toes. Don't care. But if you're worshiping Bob the Wonder Toes, and if you do, he toasted for your sins. That's fine, but don't tell me I need to worship Bob the Wonder Toes and I need to give over all my white bread to him. Like really, like I have to do that so I don't burn for eternal torment. And it's just like this whole thing just gets exhausting. And I really wish people would just take like 2 seconds, just 2 seconds. I'm like, just think about this for 2 seconds and go, does this make sense? And not do the mental gymnastics and apologetics, is just sit down and really like sit with it. I think that's why Anthony's work, street epistemology is so important for people to just have to deal with that, illogical fallacy and engage their rational thinking, to sit there and go, well, why do I believe this?
Yeah, and it goes well beyond the idea of if they're not trying to impose me their religion, because if they just vote for people who will impose their religion, then even if they keep it to themselves, they're still trying to act on it. So
right.
That's why we can just say, yeah, this person keeps their religion to themselves, so that they're fine. But you need to go deeper and see further than this, because there are more and different ways to influence people than just acting yourself.
Well, Well, and also too, there and also like to be fair, like they keep their religion to themselves. I mean, one thing, but like, how are they voting? You know, how do they perceive other people that aren't like them? You know, if it's more like, you know, they do the whole like, Jesus loves everybody, and I'm going to act with kindness and compassion. I'm like, cool. We just disagree on philosophy, but on human values, yeah, good, okay, cool. But if it's God doesn't want me to like queer people, and I don't think they should have rights, then I'm like, okay, I'm like, you're not you're not forcing your religion on me, but also you're voting for people and doing things that are actively harmful. So that's a conversation we do need to have about like, what are our values?
Yeah, I the problem with values is that they again sometimes they are tied to someone's identity,
Right.
uh, and that's never a good thing, because the harder they are connected to your identity, the harder it is to even start evaluating them. So yeah.
Well, I think that like, being an atheist is, and to a certain extent a part of my identity, but I'm not like married to the idea. Like, if you give me substantial evidence to believe in a God or whatever, I'll be like, okay, that's a God. I don't know what it looks like, but maybe it looks like Thor. I don't know. That'd be nice. I'm just saying. But at the same time, does that mean I worship it? No, because I don't worship anything. Unless there's orgasms involved. But other than that, I'm not doing that.
I see this differently. I don't see being an atheist as part of my identity, just like I don't think being trans is part of my identity.
Mm.
It's like saying I I was born in France makes me French, but it's not like it's part of my identity. Well, it is in this case because it's your language, it's your culture, it's where you grew up and lived and all that stuff. But it's like having brown eyes makes me part of the community of brown-eyed people. It's just mathematic. It's just and being an atheist is the same. I don't believe in a god, so yeah, by definition that makes me an atheist. But I don't have any and also I hate labels generally, so that maybe
So
that's one of the
my
reasons
friend
why.
Ducky's going to be on a Monday, and we're going to talk about how labels don't serve us. So we're going to talk about
Yeah,
that on
yeah,
Monday,
no,
everybody. Let's
I
talk
know.
about
That's why I say this.
that. Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for that nice segue.
yeah, I hate labels, and yeah, I watched your show with Scott on Monday, the first half live, and the rest on the day after. And you had kind words about me, by the way, so thank you very much. Not so graceful for Richard Gilliver, but I mean, it's fair.
Well,
It's fair. What you
it's
said is fair.
Richard. Like I can make fun of Richard.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we're
It's
friends.
his.
We've been friends long enough. I can give him shit.
Yeah, his.
We haven't hung out as much, so I'm being charming.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
so-
he's amazing. But um,
yeah.
yeah, labels. On one hand, they seem necessary because of the way we think, but
Mhm.
they are such a disservice to our ability to connect to people.
It, it is. I agree, and I think I should be a little bit more nuanced with this. Like, because I'm an atheist activist, it's been associated with my identity, but like,
Mm.
but I'm not so attached to the idea that I'm like, I'm not willing to have my mind changed. You just have to convince me,
Mm.
and then, but then again, like, being accepting that a God exists is different than following a religion, following a belief, and like basing my whole moral compass on like, this one particular thing. I think that has more nuance than that. Like you mentioned being French. I'm French, but I'm second generation French because my mom's from Canada and she's from Quebec. I'm French, but I'm American because like hereditarily, my ancestors came from France, then came here, and then more white people came over to Canada. We're awful to indigenous people. And then like, white, colonialism, everybody, but it's French colonialism. And then my mom, moved to New Hampshire in the 1950s, my dad, and henceforth I exist. So like, yes, I'm French, but it's not, that's my heritage, not who I am. It just happens to be like what my heritage is. But like I identify more as American because that's been my experience of living in the United States. But again, not my identity. I just happen to live here. Because at the end of the day, like I could, like if I move to Japan and I live in Japan, does that mean I'm Japanese? Obviously not.
Yeah. Yeah, my problem with labels is that they tend to shift the thinking of people who use them, like because like you talked about this with Scott on Monday. When you create a label, you automatically assign some properties to it. Like um, uh, if you are a woman, then you must be looking in a certain way. You must have certain physical attributes, but also there's this idea that you must behave in a certain way, like or you will be interested in certain things, or and if you go outside these preconceived ideas that are assigned to the label, then you will not be seen as part of the label, and that's often a problem. And so it limits people's view of other people. Like if I say this is a gay person, then anyone will think about how they look, how they present, how they act, but they will not start thinking about, yeah, maybe, oh yeah, he's gay, but maybe he's an astronaut. Oh yeah, maybe he's a very super smart guy, because gay people have those set of ideas assigned to them. And so anything that's outside this, like when I started talking about critical thinking, um, like 4 or 5 years ago, I know that at least two people had this response that, wow, trans people talking about critical thinking, wow. And so because or it's like this woman, she's a pilot, wow, woman pilot, wow. And it's not just like the idea that these women are very um, have a small representation in the pilot uh, uh, community. It's just that
Well,
it's hard to imagine a woman being a pilot, because pilot is, it's, you have this manly activity that, and it's the same thing for everything.
because you need a penis to fly a plane. Duh.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how that works.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you pointed out, like if we look back in history to like, black, scientists and mathematicians helping to develop the space program back in the 50s
Yeah.
and 60s. We were like, wow, a black mathematician. And I'm like, she's a mathematician that just happened to be black. Like there's
Yeah.
a like, yeah, like they're not, they're they're not mutually, they're kind of mutually exclusive, because you can be a mathematician and it has nothing to do with your skin color.
Yeah, but at first
it has
there's a
nothing to do with your
disconnect in
gender. It
people's
doesn't
mind.
have anything to do that. It just happens that you understand math and
Yeah.
you applied it, and you need it so we could get people in the space. So it just seems very, like, obviously as a feminist and as a queer person, I like to see people that are like me in positions of influence. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and pretend I don't, because because we're not seen as equal yet. It's an uphill battle, motherfuckers. But the point is that the reason why we have such diversity is just to be like, oh, that person happens to be gay, but also, is, an astronaut. But you're not really thinking about who he's fucking. You're thinking about, oh my God, like, he's been to Mars or whatever, and it's like, cool. He wants to go to Mars and he's working to go to Mars.
Yeah.
It just happens to be what it is. Oh, yay, my wine fairy is here. Thank you. Thank you, wine fairy. I love my husband. My husband is the best wine fairy.
Oh.
Yes. Now he's talking to the cat.
So are you going to be impacted by the tariffs on French wine?
Oh yeah. Well, what's really funny, because like my roommate, my friend Connor, works at a liquor store as the wine consultant, and their French stock is down. They had to explain to somebody that champagne has to come from Champagne, France. It's from there, and the reason why we call it that is very specific. And that was, I was like, you had to explain that to a customer, and they're like, yep. And I'm like, okay, wow. So yeah, we'll be affected by it. And also too, like, I don't think people appreciate this, like, with the imports, but also, like, if you're a wine maker, like, let's say in California, you still rely on, your connections with other, like, foreign winemakers. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on in this, in that industry. So it's not just like, well, I'll just buy California wine. I'm like, that's going to get affected too. I go, just don't think because you live in the United States that we have American-made products that you're not going to be affected by tariffs, because you will, because we now live in an international world, and everything feeds each other, and when it comes to commerce and capitalism. So
yeah,
sorry, everybody. Take a basic economics course.
Yeah, and it's very rare to find wine that is not a mix of different sources. So and it's
like,
not just,
I love them all back, but like, yes, it's technically from Argentina, but the thing is, though, that you have American winemakers making that own property in Argentina to make Malbec. So what now, motherfucker? So I don't think people, like, this is the thing that I find so frustrating. They're like, well, we'll just make everything here. I'm like, no, everything you like. Everything you like, everything that you rely on, all that's from cars to airplanes to wine, whatever it is, relies on some sort of foreign import or supply that is feeding it. That's how this works. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like, we can't do everything ourselves. It's literally impossible. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool, Frankenstein. That's awesome. Malbec's my favorite. So I think I'm drinking a blend, though. This is a little sweeter than a Malbec, so I think I'm drinking a blend. That being said, I do find it very. So this is the thing about, like, we were talking about rational thinking. Like, okay, can the United States, if you think about this for 1 second, can the United States supply everything that we need to survive as a nation on its own? Let's think about this for 2 seconds.
Yes,
I would say no.
If you invite every country that has one natural resource,
right? Exactly. But no,
that's why you have Trump talking about Canada being the 51st state, and invading Greenland and Panama, and that's the only way you can make everything made in US, is that the entire world is part of the US.
Yeah, and it's like that's why we have the Gulf of America now. Like, okay. I'm like, fine, you gave it a new name. Good for you. I'm still going to call it the Gulf of Mexico. I've been calling that for 47 years. Not going to change now. Anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's stupid. Like, this is the thing about like the whole nationalism thing that I find kind of gross. It's just like, I'm like, okay, like we are a nation of immigrants. I'm friends. My mother is an immigrant. My mom is still here on her visa. She married my dad, and she's still here on her visa. So, just pointing out, we are a nation of immigrants. Guess what? All white people are immigrants. All of us. So, I just have this whole problem with this American imperialism type of thing, because like it just comes down to chance that I happen to be a white person. That's all it is. Like, my ancestors fucked other white people, and then other white people fucked each other, and henceforth me. That's all it is, social conditioning, so I just find the whole thing really silly. And that's the whole thing, like, about the rational thinking part. Cause then you go, oh, you know what? Skin pigmentation is random. It's an evolutionary byproduct of our ancestors, moving across, to different climates. And then, over time, our skin darkened or lightened or whatever. And then we met other tribes and they fucked, and then you get, it's just on and goes. So I just get annoyed when people are like, no, it's super special that you're white. I'm like, no, it's just chance. I do recognize that my ancestors and current people think that it's super fucking special to be white. It's not that special, guys. It's not. It's not that special.
Nationalism is the most stupid politics I can think of.
And they should. I think they should name Mars the planet swastikas. Yes. Well, because feminism, and then men, something, like, trans people, men, women, something. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm still trying to figure all this out, and I just find it all very silly. Because like that's the whole thing. Are we going to bring like religion and like white supremacy to Mars? If Elon does it, yes. Yes. But like, I'm like, why is this particular thing the hill you want to die on? That's always my question. Like, and it comes down to rational thinking. Like, why, when everybody's like on a hill and they're like, this is the thing that has to be true, and I'm going to, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to insist that it's true. And then I'm over here going like, why are you dying on the hill? Like, why? Please explain. Like, why can't people from different, like, cultural backgrounds just coexist with everybody else and have human rights? Please explain. I'm still waiting because I haven't heard a good argument.
No, because like I said, nationalism is the most basic and stupid politic movement ever. Like the idea that because you are born on one side of the frontier, then you are better than the person who was born like 200 meters on the east, but on the other side of the line, and it doesn't make sense. It's stupidity.
Well, it was really funny because, like, I was there was an episode of Business Insider where this guy was a former white supremacist, and now he helps people get out of white supremacy, and he works with different non-hate groups, to get people out of like really bad ideology. He wasn't even allowed to watch sports. Like they are very controlling about, like, you can't watch sports, you can't watch movies, you can't listen to music unless it's like white power shit. Like, you can't do any of that stuff because they made it about because it's part of the Jewish propaganda out of Hollywood. I don't know how that relates to sports and being a good athlete versus, I don't know. It's all dumb. Don't know how it works because it's stupid. Because it's all stupid. But he said that the reason why they do that, it's a cult. You don't do the things that you enjoy. Don't masturbate, because that's another big thing. You can't have sexual gratification, so you're stressed out all the time. That's have an orgasm, everybody, when you're stressed. It really does help. Second of all, if that's your thing, but I'm just saying orgasms can solve a lot of problems. But that's the thing. If you're constantly stressed out, you're constantly told you can't enjoy your hobbies. You can't want, if you like football, you can't, or soccer, you can't watch those things because there's people of different ethnicities that compete on sports teams, and they work together with other people from different national backgrounds, and they work together as a team. And to do that, you would have to care about somebody else and work with them to be effective at a certain level.
Yeah.
Can't do that if you're trying to tell everybody that, this person's skin's darker than yours, so bad. Stupid. Yeah. Nationalism and white supremacy or any sort of, it's stupid. It's so fucking stupid. I'm like,
yeah, especially when you look at the face of those guys who claim they are part of the supreme race. They're overweight, they're ugly, they're
playing at being in the military. It's than real people I know that have been in the military. We know people in the military, and they're really great people. So, and they really know what's going on. My son's in the military. So, there's those people versus whatever, the Proud Boys are, who, and what's really funny about, that whole movement is that, one, they play soldiers. So that's interesting, one. But also, two, it's this sort of feeling of, disenfranchisement men, which I totally get. And that's a problem. Because guess what? Toxic masculinity doesn't serve anybody. But it's that thing about wanting to belong in group and having this sort of idea that I have to be above other women, gay people, trans people, people of color. This will tell me who my identity is. It's no, dude, you're just figuring it out just like the rest of us, but don't be hateful because we're all in the same boat. We're all just trying to get through life. And you being an asshole is not serving you right now. It doesn't serve anybody. Because then nobody wants to hang around with you. Nobody wants to help you. Because I'm I don't want to be around you because you're a jerk.
Yeah, yeah. I read something about a year ago, and I thought it was a very interesting view on toxic masculinity. It says that basically all the milestones of men in general in the US has been removed. You were supposed to graduate from university, then you had your first job, then you bought your first car, then you bought your first house, and because of the cost of living that's been increasing in the US, men don't have those milestones again, and so because of that, they don't know what is their place in society. And I found that very, very interesting and very, very relevant because, yeah, it's you can't solve a problem if you don't find the sources of the problem. And I think this is one. And it's very, very telling that the the patron saint of incels is now colliding the US, and basically it's
miserable.
And yeah, he's miserable.
Still miserable.
He's still miserable, and he's fathomably rich, and he's making it worse for other men, and that's only
Right.
going to increase anger in men. And so it's a vicious circle, and I don't see how the US is going to get out of this right now.
Like, I've been joking because like I am now the head breadwinner in my house. I have won feminism, everybody. Like, and I say to my husband, I'm like, "You're a cook now. I make more money than you." And he's like, it's so stupid because I'm like, feminism? Question mark. Capital. I won capitalism, I think. Like, and I'm so stressed out about money all the time. So it's just like, it's capitalism. That's the reality of capitalism.
Yeah.
It all, like, Cindy, we were having a group show in the nonprofits, and Cynthia put out a really good point that everything leads back to capitalism. It's this idea that your worth is based on what commodity you have. It is not based on how you treat other people. It is not based on your kindness and compassion, your ability to let people live and help those that are in places that are in a place of struggle. Again, please donate to Kelley's fundraiser because he needs help. So I'm just going to put that out there. The link's in the doobly-doo. If you are watching this later, please give money, or at least share. If you can't give the money, at least share it. Do that. But that being said, everything leads back to capitalism, because if everything is about commodity and what you own, and you know how, and then like this type of person is better than this type of person, and all this type of stuff, then we're losing the point. We have lost the trail. And the thing is, though, is that with toxic masculinity, capitalism is tied up in that. You know, I'm supposed to, like, if you weren't going to be a rock star or a sports star, you're supposed to like go to college, get a degree, become, live the American dream, get a wife, and you have 2.5 kids and a dog, and then if you don't do it, and also too, but you also have to like bang everybody at the same time, but also women can't be like sexually available to you for you to bang. Like, you're supposed, like, unless she's a slut or whatever, and I'm using that in the derogatory, like, I don't believe like anyone's a slut, but I'm just using toxic masculinity terms. Because have stuff with, as long as everybody's consensual adults and everybody's being safe, fuck as many people you want. I don't care. I don't care. But because this sort of idea of like, Virgin Madonna, horror Madonna complexes and toxic masculinity, and like you're gonna bang all the sluts, quote unquote, but then you're gonna marry the right girl, and she's only gonna want you for all of time. I'm like, that's what? Like, again, think rationally. Think like, guess what? Women are people. We're complicated. Every person is a complicated being, and we all have our own experiences and things that form who we are. I have ADHD. My brain's just a little bit different. And that's the thing about like not having labels. Like, ADHD is just the way my brain is configured. I don't even consider it a disorder. It's just that I have a different brain. Same person that has depression, same person that has bipolar disorder or whatever. Your brain is just different, and you need certain things like therapy. Sometimes you need meds, and you need familial support and support of your community to like just function. And that's it. That's all that is. So I don't understand why we're like trying to put everybody in fucking categories instead of just offering resources and kindness and compassion so people get the help that they need. That's all we're looking for. And it can still be part of a capitalistic system. You can still make money. There was like, I think Ethan, the friendly neighborhood atheist, posted this thing on Facebook about like, mental health shouldn't be charged. And I'm like, listen, I go, we live in a capitalistic society. I'm like, I love my therapist and I have no problem giving her money. Because she has to make a living. And I'm sorry, like, if you listen to me bitch for an hour about like, bullshit that's going on in my life, thank you so much. I can just vent to you. I give you money to do it so you can live. And then you can pay your therapist.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's and that's something that um, the right and more importantly the far right tends to misrepresent us about. It's, I don't care if people make money. I want people to make money. I don't hate rich people. I think uh, everyone should have a slice at the cake. That's all.
I just don't want people to suffer. That's my
Yeah.
thing. Like, and but the thing is though is that because under, and I worked at National Geographic Museum. I love you, honey. I love you. But it's one of those things about like, because there has to be a hierarchy under a capitalistic system, and like true socialism is just a very difficult thing to achieve. It can like right now it can only be if in like very small communities it's been effective. And I think it was effective like in between like 1911 and 1912 in this very small community in another country. I'm not remembering my facts right now. So, but it was the thing. But it's like on a national level, no, because guess what? We're so viewing everybody that like if you have a different skin color than I do, or you're a different gender, or different sexuality, or different this, than like cis, straight, and white male. That's the problem. I'm like we have to get over these fucking binaries, man. like labels serve us. For me to say that I have like I'm queer, I'm a woman, a cis woman, and queer, and have ADHD, and I've studied, I have a psychology degree, blah 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 blah. That's just like descriptors of me, but like my identity is it's constantly changing. I'm not the same person I was yesterday. There's like the core to my identity, but because I'm constantly having new experiences and I have to integrate those things into my existence, I'm not the same person. So thank you, Alice in Wonderland. Because you're constantly changing. There's some things that they're going to remain constant, but for example, like I am very uppity. That's part of my identity. I am uppity and opinionated. That is part of my identity. I will own that. I got opinions. I have a lot of things to say.
What does your glass say?
It says, life happens, wine helps.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Yep. I do have the one that so for Christmas over on Dr. Ben's Twitch channel, we had like this group charity thing we do, so the money went to RFR. And we do like a stream, and I got a Don't Be a Contosaurus cup glass from Dr. Ben that is currently in my cabinet. That is one of my favorites. So I got that from him too. So every time I use it, I'm like, it's from Ben. And I get all happy. So but I really appreciate you, like, because like when we're talking about rational thinking, it is not just like think rationally about like a God. It is about like any belief that you hold, or any opinion you hold, it has to be able to stand up to scrutiny.
Yeah.
And that's what rational thinking does. It helps you put things up to scrutiny and go, does this pan out? Does this make sense in an objective sort of way?
Yeah, and you don't have to. In fact, you never have extremely strong opinions on anything, unless it's things that have been through the passage of time, like
ringer.
like gravity, like theory of germs, like those big things we know about our universe. But other than that, like if you go to a dinner with friends and one of them tells you a story about someone else that you both know, you will automatically assign a trust value to this statement. But you don't have to believe it 100% or not believing it 100%. It will be somewhere between the two, and it goes for everything. Like you don't have to be sure 100% of anything. In fact, it's better not to.
Right, and also too, like I keep saying, like it's impossible for you to know everything. It's literally
Mm.
impossible. Don't, and I'm not misusing the word literally right now. some people misuse it. I'm not. Literally, it is literally impossible for you to
Yes.
know
Yeah.
everything. So, but that doesn't stop us from being curious. That doesn't stop us from wanting to know more. Like, and because like every day I learn something new, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. Every day I learned about like a little town in Florida earlier today, while I was putting up a new shower curtain, because I was listening to this guy that travels all over the United States and just does filming of like he travels like everywhere. He's talked to someone that was a Holocaust survivor. He was in a somewhere in northern Florida, like very rural, where there was some house. There was some building there that was like over like 300 years old, and they were talking about it. And I was like, that's really interesting. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Again, I didn't know that. Learn something new. Do I remember the details now? I just thought it was interesting, but details kind of get lost on me because the ADHD is strong. It's just, because what happens is that I'm super interested in it, then I fall down rabbit holes, and I get hyper focused. But like if you cutting off your nose to spite your face, that you're not engaging with the world, that you're realizing that you are limited in what you can know, and that doesn't make you a good or bad person. It's just, that's life. You can't know everything. That's why we do have, like, especially us in our community, where people are very specific on like one, like my friend Cara says, like they have a doctorate in anthropology, and so like you got really good at one specific thing, and you did all this studying, and you wrote papers that were published, that were peer reviewed, and like this one thing really, really well, and you're the expert on this one thing. Everything else, you don't know shit. Like, as much as the next person, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Like, I would have a PhD in Lord of the Rings in Tolkien universe if that was a degree you could get. I think you can get a degree in like being an expert on Tolkien. Like, I have there's a book that I'm currently, or like a Man of the Century, about J.R.R. Tolkien. It is really well written by someone that he teaches at Oxford about like English literature, and he talks a lot about Tolkien. So I guess you could be like, have an official degree on the Lord of the Rings, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
But it's in the context of like British literature, so it's not just like this one thing, like, I'm very much into the mythology of Middle Earth, because it's pagan and Christian at the same time, which is really fascinating. I think, as Tolkien is a Catholic, I'm like, are you sure? Like, if you just did a little bit more research, you'd be idiot. Because, like, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a sidebar.
Go ahead.
Talk about Tolkien for a second. You'll appreciate this. Like, okay, the thing about Tolkien is that he understood mythology. He understood like how myths form, and that's why the world he created is so believable. In that context of mythology, that I'm kind of, and he was also a Catholic, that I'm kind of like, are you sure you weren't like, at least a deist? Because this is giving me like, I understand mythology. I understand, because he was very well read in those subjects, that I just like, and he wasn't, and also he wasn't a fundy. So I was like,
yeah, maybe he was.
Also, white people are great, so that wasn't so great either. But
maybe he was what we call here a cultural Catholic.
Yeah, I don't know, because like there's some stuff in his writings, because he doesn't go a lot, like he was Catholic, but he doesn't go a lot into his religious beliefs. And honestly, like if you've been through 2 world wars, I don't know how you can believe in a God. I don't know how. Like, I just don't know how. The Tolkien, I specialize in Gollum, Tolkien legend. like this is the thing. Like I find fascinating, especially people that have studied myth about like because he studied a lot about like Anglo-Saxon Anglo-Saxons Anglo-Saxon myth and and history and language and all that stuff that I'm just kind of like are you like I don't understand how you can also be a like believe in God. Like if you if you understand myth and how believing in God is a myth, I don't know how. Like where C.S. Lewis did like some apologetic shit, which tells me he wasn't a real atheist. I'm sorry. Like he might have been like, I don't believe, but that was probably just a default. Like he didn't. I don't think he ever sat there and go, why do I not believe in a God? And like did the rationalism thing because that's what you have to do. That's why when people say like I was an atheist, I'm like, no, I'm like you're like, you're a non-theist. Like because when like I think that when you're because like atheism just is the default, like the rational thinking and the skeptical thinking is the part that comes like atheism is the position, but you can be a rational thinker and believe in God. They're not mutually exclusive. So
yeah,
I just don't believe in a God. That's it.
Yeah,
until I'm convinced otherwise.
Yeah, because you can be your worldview and your religious worldview can be instilled into you at a very young age, and so when you start learning about rational thinking and you're starting building these tools and these mental postures, usually they apply to new information. It takes effort and occasion of confronting ideas to start thinking about what you already believe.
Right.
If you don't encounter any counter information about what you already believe, then you may not be in position to start looking into them. And it's not about intellectual dishonesty. It's just you don't. It just don't doesn't happen.
What do you want?
Is that your cat?
My cat. Yeah, this is catnips. It's TREATS time, and she's reminding me that I have not done it yet.
Okay.
They could. So I'm a very good cat slave. So she's reminding me. She's like, you didn't feed me my treats, and then she mouths in my face. I can't say that word in a certain tone, because she knows the word.
Yeah, and she's going to believe that it's coming now.
Yeah, and then she likes having now, and yeah. So that's so. Anyway, but like, okay, so, but she can wait. She's a cat. She can wait. She's spoiled. So she is spoiled. But like what I think also too with the frustration that I have with the idea that that somehow that if I just believe hard enough it will be real is also something that I find a little bit concerning. It's kind of like when we were talking about like white nationalism or Christian nationalism. Like if I just believe this hard enough, and I can force people into this sort of ideology, then it's real. And it's like, no, that doesn't make something real. Sorry, because all of us over here are going like, nope, nope, nope. No, that's bad. That's really bad.
So how would you respond to the criticism that you atheists trying to bring rational thinking into schools? It's just like us bringing religion into our school. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is that I'm with rational thinking. I just want people to be like, hey, I'm presenting you with an idea. And I can like if I present to you like the evangelical perception of God is real, and then you get a Catholic that says the Catholic perception of a God is real, Scientology is real, Mormonism is real. Okay, like which God are we talking about? That person has to be able to like decipher through which God is real. That's one thing. So like the rational thinking part is like, how do we, parse out the differences? You introducing religion through one particular lens doesn't allow for that nuance. It doesn't allow the person to go, well, okay, well, you're telling me that, this Christian God is real, like through this particular, like, let's say it's the evangelical. So we're going to say through the evangelical lens, because the Methodists and the other sort of religious sects, like they're not getting a say in this. Though I find it very funny that the Catholics are bending to the evangelicals to kind of affect it. And I'm like, that's interesting, because usually the evangelicals and the Catholics were at war, and now they're kind of like, fucking each other. Mm-hmm. That's not, so I'm just like, that says something. That says something. Go with the wind. And I'm like, where the money is and where the wind blows. Just, I'm always like, follow the money, guys. Follow the money. Follow it. Because religion is a dying breed. So they're going to, cash on the coattails. But going back to your original question, it should be like, if you take, like, I took a world religions class in college, which is very enlightening. I think that everybody should take some kind of religion, even if you're just watching a couple, go to the Greek courses, learn about historical history, read David Fitzgerald's books, something where you learn how religion is a thing that we've been doing since people be people. Once you do that, you go, oh, we've been just believing in bullshit forever. That's why, we have cults built around AI now, because everybody's looking for God. Everybody's looking for, and if it's not going to be like a sky daddy, it's going to be like, we're living in the Matrix and we're living in like a simulated universe and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, cool. But as David said, it doesn't really matter if we're living in the Matrix. We still have to be kind and compassionate to each other. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, I don't care. I still got to pay my taxes. I still have to give my cat treats. I still have to interact with other people and be a nice person. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Because I don't think there, like, I have a very, I'm not like, what is your feeling on solipsism, Cindy? I'm curious. How do you feel about solipsism?
I don't like to engage in it because, as you said, it's like whatever your position on this topic is, you still have to start at the same level to start your epistemology process. You cannot start with we're living in a simulation, so this comes from outside the simulation, this comes from inside. You cannot do that. You still have to start the process of trying to figure out how the world works from the inside of the simulation. So to me, I'm not interested in those discussions. And there's the previous comment by Frankenstein that I started out Catholic. Before I left it, I actually believed in a sort of oneness. I think that's a very interesting comment. I can't hear you anymore. Did you mute yourself?
I didn't have my microphone on, so that's my bad. Okay, so like, sorry, I didn't realize I had hit it either, so that's fine. I am halfway through my wine, so that there's also that. So, but like, I can be more accepting of like a deist view, like not a religious view, but like there might be a ultimate power, whether it's AI or a god. I don't know how we would distinguish between the difference. There was a really good Star Trek episode on that, by the way, and the and Star Trek: The Next Generation, how we decipher what a god is. Very cool. Highly recommend. I think it's in season 2 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Picard ends up on this planet where they have this like alien race that has super advanced technology that to the people on the planet they're presenting as a god. And Data is and both the god and Picard are debating each other, like a goddess, figure, and Picard are debating like what makes a god, and Data is the judge because he's perfectly because he's an android and doesn't have any sort of emotional investment in this, so he's kind of like the decipher of like what is true. And then you find out like this alien race has super advanced technology that can make earthquake simmons, make visions, all this type of stuff. How do we decipher what a god is? So again, like then we're talking about like, well, let's find this definition of what a god is. I'll have to look up the episode. It's very good. That was my first step. And this is really funny too. My brother Bob, who is super Catholic, is a huge Trekkie. And I find that so interesting because, like, all of us atheists really love Star Trek. Like, and I'm like, did you miss the memo that Gene Roddenberry was an atheist? Like, and create this whole thing about like we are no longer relied on currency. We're not living in a utopian future. He also has some problematic views of women. Not the best person, but at least like, a lot of it, and it's still based on like some old military sort of like, a little bit of old white supremacy stuff. There's some stuff in there that we can work through. We're trying, but ultimately is that in the future, there's no religion. There's no capitalism. That you can pursue your interests, whatever that looks like, without any sort of undue influence of like capitalistic systems. So there's problems with the government, and we can talk about that. I could have whole conversations on the philosophical underpinnings of Star Trek.
But
go ahead.
What makes a god? I think that's a fantastic question.
It was so good. I have to find the episode. I have to find it.
Because I've never watched any series or movies from Star Trek.
You are not a good atheist.
Star Trek is not very popular in Europe. Well, I mean, in
that makes sense. It is a very okay. It's called. I think that is okay. It's The Devil's Due. It was the 13th episode of the 4th season. Is it the 4th season? Arda. Okay, yeah. Is this the one I'm thinking of? No, that's with Q. Okay, yeah. It is season. I thought it was season 2. It's season 4. Oh no, that's the devil one. This was the one that had advanced tail. Oh no, yeah. Ara the Imposter. It is called The Devil's Due. I'm gonna put the wiki article in it. But if you have Netflix, you should just watch this episode. It's so good. Because and then like the alien race is living on this planet. She has demands because she appears as this like, God or devil, whatever, that demands like certain things of his followers, as a good cult leader does. And but they're a cult leader with like alien technology that is like super advanced. That's basically what this is. Convinces these people that go ahead.
No, finish.
Well, the whole point of this episode is to show, how do we tell if there was an advanced alien race that was able to manipulate us into believing in gods? Is it a god, or is it just advanced technology? Because to our ancestors were gods. Like you and I are across the world right now, able to engage with each other and have a conversation and laugh and communicate and bond. Our ancestors I'd be like, I'd be like, Cindy's in Belgium, which is on a totally different continent across the world. We're talking to each other in real time. That would seem like, the ability for God to do that if you didn't understand the technology. So how do we tell?
Yeah. So what makes a god a deity? Is it its nature? Is it its abilities? Is it the way it acts? Is it that's a very, very interesting question.
Yeah, and so that's what that particular episode poses. Like, what is a god, and what would that god look like, and is it reasonable to believe in that god, to give up, like, because there's a whole thing like the god, this particular deity, I think they were going to destroy the planet, and unless the beings did like some sort of like sacrifice. I forgot what it was exactly, but it's one of those things that you're kind of like, that's interesting, because like everything, like people see like Elon as a god. I don't know why, because he's terrible. But like the bro dudes, there's bro dudes that are like, I was just a side note. I was on my way to get my nails done today, and I was in a red light, and I look over, there's a cyber truck next to me, and I visibly winced, and I was like. And I was like, I hope that person didn't see me wince at their car. I was like, like, oh boy, but like, because there's this type of thing about like any sort of like social group that you're in. There's a little bit like one of my favorite podcasts is Behind the Bastards, but Robert Evans, who does that podcast, was pointing out, like, even in fandoms or like little like social groups, there's a little bit of cult dynamics that going on. Like, I'm a big D&D nerd. Like I said this to Scott the other day, there's certain things that, like, you play in D&D. I'm going to be in the campaign next week, by the way. So tune in for that. If you're not in the Atheist Community of Austin's Discord and playing D&D with us, I'm going to be there next week. I'm not going to say anything about my character though, but I'll be there on Saturday. But that being said, next week, if I say, you failed your charisma check, if you haven't played D&D, you have no idea what I'm talking about, unless you absorbed it through osmosis, or I'd be like, I don't have enough spell slots for that. Like, I just don't have enough. You automatically know what I'm saying. That's cult dynamics, because there's certain language that people that play Dungeons and Dragons know. If you're not in that subculture, you don't know about it. But also at the same time, you need to get out of your subculture. And because it can be culty, and we've seen cults form around weird sort of like weird subcultures, where they take themselves a little bit too seriously. That's a problem. Because but that's like, because we're social and we're tribal, and that's why, like, we share certain memes and certain things with each other, because we're in this in-group that we all understand, because we're tribal. But it's the difference between, like, I'm talking about like a fantasy game where I play, a bard that's also like can influence people through, like, I can give you an advantage on a skill check based on playing like a song, versus like that doesn't happen in real life. There's a difference, and it's just one of those things that I find very interesting about, like, the human psychology and human dynamics, the way that how a lot of these things feed each other. And if you're not using a rational thinking brain, you're like, oh, I'm kind of flirting with cult dynamics, but I'm not in a cult.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it cult dynamic. I would say it's human dynamics.
Or cult well, like, it be a tool.
Yeah. Because tribalism,
it's a cult tool. I like, that's better. Like, I like it's a tool, right?
Yeah.
That's been manipulated by cults. That's better. So yeah. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, because tribalism and the will to look like and act like and talk like the people we love, that's that's inherent to humans doesn't mean you're in a cult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like what he said. Like,
Mm,
nature is sacred, truth is sacred, love is sacred, but these are not beings. Like this is
mm,
kind of like Francie, this is a very atheo-pagan perspective. This is very much an atheo-pagan. Like they're not beings, they're not gods, but like I consider love, compassion, nature sacred things that are things that should be protected into the future so we can survive as a species. Be totally great if we did more of that. It's a psychological it's a psychologically sacred, not like
mm,
religious sacred. It is psychologically sacred to us, and because we assign value to sacredness, like I
mm,
like as a poly person, if I invite you into my bed, that is a sacred act, not like it's like a religious, it should be a religious
mm,
experience, by the way, but it's but, just saying, but it's because I trust you enough and I care about you enough to invite you into my bed. That is a sacred experience, to be like completely vulnerable with another human being. It should be seen that way, but it's nothing supernatural going on. And I think there's a difference. You can call something secret and not be supernatural.
yeah.
There can be, that's why we use colorful language, because it serves
Yeah.
us. Like it serves us.
Yeah. Exactly. So last question, because Ethan,
Mhm.
you mentioned him earlier, Ethan Michael. He asked me a question. He said, uh, in my opinion, you cannot be born an atheist. It's a lack of belief. You're a blank state at birth, so you hold no position on the topic. So, what do you think about that?
I agree with that. Because we're born like, okay, I don't think it's completely tabula rasa. Like we are going to be influenced on some level by nature, like certain aspects of who I am. Like chronic depression runs in my family. Is that brain development? Probably. I like it just runs in my family, though. At this point, I'm wondering who family doesn't suffer from depression, but that's a different conversation. But like, or there's certain aspects of my personality that I can kind of see in both. Like this is the chicken and the egg thing. Like are you're like chicken and the egg. Like were you born an atheist or were you influenced by it? Like one or the other, because beliefs are learned. Also, atheism is learned. If we're looking at this from, is this a learned position? Then yes, because you're going to be influenced by your experiences. So we're all born with no belief. But atheism is the position when you take that I'm not convinced sky gods exist. But you have to know what a sky god is to take the
Okay, so
position that you are an atheist.
yes, so that's very close to what I think. It's you cannot have a position on something you haven't been exposed to. So it is true that when you are born, you are like a blank state, and until you have been exposed to the idea of a god, you cannot have a position on it. However, the lack of belief,
It's
uh,
complicated. It's complicated.
yes, it's complicated because it's it's like the double sense that when we are talking with theists, you have lack of belief or belief of a lack of God. It's two different things. Um, so the atheism being a lack of belief is different than um, I don't know. I don't think you cannot. Um, I don't think you
It's
can
hard.
answer. Yeah, I don't think you can answer a question about something you've never exposed to.
Like
So
if someone like said, like, you know, to me, like, you know, what's your opinion on like the social ethical, you know, positions of women living in Thailand, I'd be like, I don't have an opinion on that because I haven't been exposed to those ideas. Like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of like that. Like, I don't have a position on the political and economic struggles of women in Thailand because I've never been exposed to anything in regards to the social and economical issues that women face living in Thailand. I just don't know. And even if I became super well educated on it, I've never had firsthand experience because I don't live in Thailand and I'm not a woman that grew up in that culture and are influenced by the politics and cultural expectations and their own inner experience of said forth being a woman living in, you know, nationally born in Thailand. I don't know. And I think that, like, yeah, we're all born pretty much cradle everything. We're born cradle everything. There's going to be certain things that are going to be innate about us. Like, I noticed that my son, when he was born, his sensory things were just off because he has sensory integration dysfunction, which and then we got him therapy for that. And he's still on the Chisholm and still has some of those issues. Yes. But also too, like you know, that's why you do the therapies and do all the things so they can, you know, reasonably function in society, but also be uniquely themselves. Got to find a balance. Everything's about balance, but regardless of that, though, that is a physical response to stimuli of the environment. That is it is just response. So that is like, you know, like the id brain. Me having an opinion on whether a god exists or not, like there have been cultures that have no exposure to a god and they're atheistic. They're like these tribal communities that have never been exposed to any sort of belief in a god, and they're naturally atheistic societies. Do they know they're atheists? I don't think so, because you don't have the compare and contrast of religion versus non-religion.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the way you define lack of belief. Because if you don't believe in something because you've never heard about it, then by definition you have a lack of belief. But also, if you've been exposed to it and then you just don't believe it, you also have a lack of belief. But they're two different things. But it depends on what you mean by a lack of belief.
Right. And
That's
so
what I
what
would
do we
answer.
mean?
Yeah.
What do we mean by, because like, okay, like Frankenstein, you point out newborns are confused, agnostics is best, but like to have confusion, that means that you have to be exposed to something that doesn't make sense in your brain.
Mhm.
So even that, again, and agnostic means that, like, I don't know, like I'm an agnostic atheist. I don't know if a god exists, so I'm agnostic about it. But because I have not been convinced otherwise, I'm going to take the position of atheist. I don't, you know, I'm atheist that I do not believe in a god because that information is not available to me because it's impossible to know. So you have to. So what is your default? Which is, I think that you've been exposed to this and I've been exposed to this when you're trying to explain that to a deist, you know, when you're trying to explain to someone like, no, like, I don't know, because you don't know either. You are like, I've had people that say that they're agnostic deists or agnostic believers. Like, I don't know if a god exists. Like, my dad was one. Like, when I was talking to Scott and I talked about my dad and when he passed away, that, you know, he said that, I don't know, but I choose to believe. He is making an active choice. He still doesn't know, but his position that he's going to go on the deist route. I'm in the atheist route. Like, I don't know, so I'm going to say no. Like, because I'm atheistic about Thor, or, you know, the elven gods, or what the fuck. Like, I don't think those things exist. Same as I don't think Dumbledore exists. It's the same thing, you know, like, I don't think it exists until proven otherwise. And then also too, again, Just because a God exists does not mean I'm going to worship it. Because I have some like okay, if I like when I do like the ACA TikToks and we have these conversations, I've had motherfuckers done like, well, if it's proven to exist, would you worship it? I go, no, because that's coercion. And if you're an all-powerful deity, why do you need me, this like emotional, rational meat sack, to worship you? Is it a power-up like Mario? Do I get like when Mario eats stars? Does the guy get like a power-up from prayer? Like why? I don't understand.
Yeah. It's
like, why do I need to worship it?
I don't need to worship a god because I have self-respect.
Yeah,
That's just it.
Like unless there's some kind of king thing involved, like I'm not worshiping anybody. like no, I'm not. Like that's not going to happen unless it's a kink thing and orgasms are involved. Other than that, like there's no reason for me to worship anybody, and that's only for like half an hour. So, like at the end of the day, I'm not worshiping anybody. Hi, Kyle. Mwah. So I'm just pointing out that's all very silly.
Yeah.
Like everything about this is silly. And unless we're actually, as the whole topic of this conversation has been about, is like, unless you're taking, 5 minutes to go, does this make sense? You're going to fall into these, illogical fallacies. You're going to fall into the ideas that, that one human being is better than another human being, one idea is better than another. There are ideas that are better than other ideas, by the way. Kindness and compassion and equality is always a better idea. Always. Everything else can be worked out in the wash. But kindness and compassion and treating other human beings and even non-human animals with respect, even though I am not a vegan. It can be both. It's complicated. I'm not going to pretend it's not. That's a conversation me and AJ are going to have in April. We're going to have a conversation about the ethics of veganism, which I think will be really
very interesting.
I'm very excited to have this conversation because it's so complicated. I don't like I have pork today. I admit it, though. Also, I think pigs are very cute. Adorable, and I want to hold them, but also at the same time, like I eat pork. It's complicated. Same with cows. I think they're great. No, actually, I cannot eat red meat anymore because natural consequence of eating red meat is that red meat is an inflammatory, and I have nerve issue problems. And if you have a nerve issue problem and you eat red meat, it's an inflammatory response. So there's that. And I also really like chicken and fish. But also at the same time, I don't want animals to suffer. It's complicated. And that's why rational thinking needs to be involved, because how do we balance? How do we make this make sense? I don't think PETA makes sense, but that's a conversation we're going to have about that. That's the type of conversations we have to have. So anyway, Cindy, tell the people where they can find you and all the things. Just tell them about all the things.
So next Saturday we will be on the ACA Discord to play our D&D campaign that's been going on for more than a year, I would say, maybe a year and a half.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
I'll put a link in the chat.
We haven't played in a while. Other than that, I'm not much on social media at the moment. I paused my involvement in the nonprofits because of some issues I'm dealing with, and maybe we can talk about this another time. But I'm gonna
have you back on because I think that other topic you're going to talk about is another topic we need to talk about. So I'm definitely going to have you on about that particular topic, because another thing about ethics and ethics and right to bodily autonomy and all that type of stuff. I think that is a very important conversation. So I think that we'll have a talk in the summer about that. So we're gonna do that. So this Monday, my friend Ducky. Okay, listen, I'm gonna tell you all you motherfuckers. Okay, Ducky is not on social media as someone that is his real name's Dan, but like I've been calling him Ducky for 20 years. So you're just gonna have to deal with it. He was also one of the most supportive people ever. My first time on Talk Heathen, I got to use his house because I didn't have high speed internet at the time. So the thing with me and Ducky, it was that like when me and my husband first got together, they're just like random like free thinkers, like pagans, atheists that were hanging out at the Starbucks in Sarasota. I met Ducky through my husband. We kind of lost track after a while. We became members of the Satanic Temple. We're no longer members of the Satanic Temple because there's problems. But he helped us move. And that is the test of true friendship. Is that if someone helps you move. And so he's back in my life, and he is dipping his toes into atheist activism online. Because it's a thing. He's also Polynesian, which is also really great to have more diverse people in this community. So that's also really cool. So we're going to talk about how labels don't serve us on Monday. He's also really funny and one of the sweetest people I know. So he's going to be here on Monday. And then Ethan Michael, who's the friendly neighborhood atheist, is going to be on my channel on Thursday to talk about how labels don't serve us. So there's that too. So that's coming up this week. I don't think I actually have a show planned next Saturday, so I'm pretty impressed with myself. Sydney's going to be back this summer. And we're going to talk about the other topic that we're going to talk about, which I think is great. Because like it's an uncomfortable topic, but something that definitely needs to be discussed. Because as someone that thinks that this is all about bodily autonomy, it needs to be discussed. So it's definitely something we should be having more conversations about in these spaces. So I highly recommend you listen to that. So we're just going to plan a thing because Cindy is an incredible human being. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation because like, this is some of my favorite stuff to talk about. If you want to be on the show, email me here, or you know someone that wants to be on the show, just do the email thing over here. Also, you're going to go to the nonprofits and subscribe because me and Cindy are on the nonprofits, and you're just going to do that. It's in the doobly doo, so you're going to do that as well, right? Yes. Listen to your mistress. Listen to your mistress when she tells you that you're going to go subscribe to the nonprofits, and you're going to do it right now. And I'm going to call you a dirty bitch if you do it. So you're going to go do it because I said so. Also, as well, if you're not on the Atheist Community of Austin with Discord fan server, you should just do that so you can listen to us play D&D next week. It's very early in the morning, but I'm going to be there because it'll be a good time. Other than that, I'm going to say bye. Oh, also, too, I'm going to post a thing about Kelley's fundraiser to do the thing because okay, I want to tell you all, like, this is why I started this GoFundMe for Kelley. Okay, me and my husband a couple of years ago, we were facing some like bullshit with his family, and we might have lost our house. Luckily, and Kelley, we were facing the fact that we would be homeless. And first thing Kelley said was, do you want to come live with me? Because he had been homeless before and he knew that feeling. And thank you, Mark. Thank you. I'm glad my kid talk worked. Anyway, because Kelley was like the first person to was like, hey, I know what this is like. I don't want you to be homeless. It just really meant something for me. I wouldn't be here with this channel if it wasn't for Kelley, because we met on the Discord server during the plague times. And he was like, you should get involved with recovering from religion. You should get involved with the ECA. I wouldn't be here without Kelley. He was the first person that was like, you should be an activist. And so I have a special place for Kelley in my cold, dead heart. So please, even if it, like, if you only donate $2, fine. If you can't donate anything, but if you can at least share the GoFundMe, that would really mean a lot, because like he's just going through some shit right now, and I just want to take care of him because I love him so much. So if you could do that, that'd be really great. Please check out SR's. We're gonna have a fundraiser on March 31st. It's a Monday. We're secularizing from Secular Rarity, his organized nonprofit, where he has no money. And we have to pay him back. Go, Cindy, go.
Yeah. But by the way, when you see him, SR, tell him that I'm very, very, very mad that I wasn't invited to help for his fundraiser.
Here's what happened. He didn't invite me either, and I got mad, and I DM'd him, and I was like, I'm giving you side eye right now. And I was on Maya's podcast last Sunday, and I was like, I'm giving you side eye right now, because you don't tell me I'm one of the most sexiest people in the ACA movement and not invite me on your podcast. What is wrong with you? So me and Maya's co-host, Dr. I don't remember his name. We're in the last slot. So you just gotta tell SR you're giving him side eye. So that's the thing, y'all. Like, if you're gonna have a fundraiser, don't ignore certain people in the atheist community, because we'll give you side eye and we'll be insulted. So yeah, there's that. I'm going to be working with Durante at for his organization, Bridge City. I'm going to be doing some racing for him. We're thinking of doing it May 4th. Is a tentative date for that. And I'm also going to be recovering from Religion Australia as their head of their growth, advocacy, and fundraising community. So that is coming up as well. So yeah, like, dude, all my dudes, like, yeah, McLaughlin, yeah, no, so yeah, we're gonna do the things. So I'm gonna tell you to please, like, okay, like Kelley was like, Kelley posted on my Facebook, and I was like, he said, I don't want to rely on the kindness of people. And I'm like, no, you have to, because nobody goes through anything alone. And when we're living in this sort of capitalistic sort of perspective, is that, and especially in the United States, where you have to be independent, you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and stuff like that. If you have a little bit of privilege, you have a little bit of ability to support. Even if it's only liking, sharing something, at least and say, like, I care about this person. You know, that's the focus. Do what you can, because you can't do everything, but do what you can do. And that's more important than worrying about, like, I can't give $50, but I can give $5. That's okay. Because that's all that matters at the end of the day, is that we're all trying to take care of each other, because we're all just trying to figure it all out together. So, because my goal in the apocalypse is to make sure all the money goes to the people that need it.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. So please, like, show kindness, show compassion, stay skeptical, and give someone a compliment this week. Also, too, just do random acts of kindness. That's really great, because I think that we all need random acts of kindness in this world right now. So do that. Okay. And I'm going, thank you, Cindy. I know that I got my soapboxes, and I talk a lot, but thank you so much. And being a wonderful human being, you need to go to sleep. So we're going to let Cindy go to sleep, and we're going to give her all the love. And thank you for everybody for being here. And I'm going to say good night. So good night, everybody. Bye.